podcast, the BL Podcast Reviews. This month, we are finally here with the long awaited review for the Taiwanese BL series Unknown. I'm your host, Alexa, and I have Pixie with me today.
Yay.
Ooh. Yeah, so if you're one of our patrons and you voted for this review, thank you for being troopers and waiting for us while we found time to have everyone binge the series and be able to sit down and record this review. But we're here, we've watched it, and we're ready to share our thoughts.
Yes.
So before we get into our feelings, I'll just go through the synopsis
Mm-hmm.
and the episode count and all that stuff like we normally do. So the synopsis. Wei Xian has been the breadwinner of his family since he lost his parents at a young age. Besides providing for his biological little sister, Wei Li, he also accepted Wei Shiwan as his little brother. Wei Xuan puts his life at risk and works illegally to support his siblings. Luckily, his childhood buddy, San Pang, gets him back onto the right path. As life gradually falls into place, Shi-wan admits that he likes Wei Xian and forcibly kisses him. Overwhelmed with anger, Wei Xian sends Shi-wan abroad. Yet, Wei Xian feels as if something is missing. Both of them, who are not related by blood, are no more than brothers. Or will they cross the forbidden line and end up becoming lovers? So it is a 12 episode series. Episodes are about 30 minutes each with some variation. And from what I've seen and where it was available for me, and I think most people internationally, was on Viki. So that's where you can watch it as an international fan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Pixie, I know you really, really love the show and were hyping it up for the longest
Mm-hmm.
time before we actually watched it. So I don't know if you want to start off sharing your general initial thoughts and feelings about it.
Yeah. So I was watching this show while it aired, and
Mhm.
it was the most painful thing ever.
It's very slow burn, so I can imagine it would have been hard to
It
watch it while it was
is.
airing.
Ugh, and I like you know me, like I don't generally like slow burns
Mhm.
because I don't have the patience for it.
Mhm.
Um, but there was something with this show that kept me engaged every episode, every time I had to wait. I think it's a little bit like of the story. It's a little bit about the story. Sorry, my dog is
Mhm.
yeah. It was a little bit about the story in general. Like it was interesting to see where are they going with this.
Mhm.
But also like the characters are really likable.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I feel like I always say this with these reviews because they're not typically shows that I would like choose myself to watch. But I was very pleasantly surprised by it. So I think I've probably said before, either on the podcast or during reviews, that I can struggle with plot lines that are like pseudo incesty, like kind
Yeah.
of walking along that line. And
Mm-hmm.
mostly it's just because I don't think the writing or the pacing of the show does a good job of making a distinction between when they viewed each other as family and when they viewed each other
Mm-hmm.
romantically. But I really think the way the show was set up by kind of moving in chronological order over multiple years, instead of
Mm-hmm.
just being like, we're in the present time and I love him, but here's some flashbacks to when we were family, or, like some weird like flashback element. I
Mm-hmm.
think that the story starting from like what 2007 almost and kind of like going through the years, and then we spent a lot of time in like 2015, 2017, and then we moved our way up to the present time. I think for me that really helped have a just it helped with developing both of the characters, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it also really helped for showing the way the relationship changed and developed for both of them over time. So it wasn't just like one day we're raised as family or viewing each other as family, and the next day like we're making out with each other because we're in love.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the way the story was set up was really well done to kind of handle the kind of forbidden love. I wouldn't say like, that's obviously a buzzword that they're using to kind of like draw people in, but
Yeah.
I think that the way they set the story up kind of lended to developing that relationship in a way that
Mm-hmm.
felt like it made sense for me
Yeah.
personally,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. If someone is like not choosing not to watch this because they heard about like the brother relationship, and think like there's like I don't think you have to worry about that,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think that they did it in a way that is uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
or wrong. Um, there's a lot happening, and like you said, over a lot of years,
Mm-hmm.
and you basically grow up with these characters. And
Yeah.
it's also so interesting to look at Wei Shan and his trauma from his not being able to take care of his mother, and then having like this, having to take care of these, like his sister and brother,
Mm-hmm.
um and just like the desperation he has
Mm-hmm.
from that, and which he in the end has to work through to even
Mm-hmm.
get to a point where he can accept having a relationship with anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, I said this with what was it, Laws of Attraction. I need these shows to start putting trigger warnings for parental abuse,
Yeah.
because they just, not only was like it parental abuse, but there was also like she was obviously an addict, and like those
Yeah,
flashback scenes were like
that was
came out of
hard.
nowhere, and they were
Yeah.
very like, I was very like,
Oh.
it's not necessarily personally triggering to me, but it's very
Mm.
jarring. And they
Mm-hmm.
were like fairly graphic for how young he was when like this stuff was happening to him, and like kind of showing her essentially overdosing and that kind of stuff. um so I wish more shows would start putting
Yeah, I
trigger
mean
warnings at the
the
beginning of
the
episodes,
scenes
but
with the mom was more traumatic to me than the scenes with the gangsters.
oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, 100%. um but all that to say, I I agree that I think they did a good job of illustrating how his trauma informed his relationships. Like, not only the way he viewed Lily as his biological younger sister, and why he felt such a responsibility to take Xiao Yan in, as like this, he saw someone who basically is at a point that he was at, or could have been at, if he didn't have like a roof over his head and stuff like that, that he was lucky to have.
Mm-hmm.
San Peng's family, it seems like, was renting that unit and kind of like looked over him in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a lot of why they showed how his relationship with his mom and what happened to her and her overdosing, informed how he cared for both of them, informed why it was so hard for him to view Xiaoyan differently as the
Mm-hmm.
time came and as they were getting older. And honestly, with both of them, he had a hard time viewing them as adults in general, because
Yeah.
like that I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsibility he had
Yeah.
as the person who was like the breadwinner for them was really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
For him to overcome, even watching them go into adulthood. And I
Yeah.
think that's why it was so essential for, even though like I was like really emotionally like upset when he just decided to like send Xiao Yan to study abroad, and like didn't even
Yeah,
say it to him
right?
himself. But I think it was very necessary for them to be apart, for him to kind
Yeah.
of be able to view that relationship differently when he came back. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 4 years later, that it was 4 years that he was abroad. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think Wei Shin was a very well done character. And like, I found myself getting frustrated with him at times, because he was like so stubborn in some things, not only with like the way he would like hold on to his anger and resentment,
Yeah.
even like when it came to himself, like later on in the show, and he had like some health stuff going on.
Yeah.
But they also did like a good job of like showing you why he was like that. So I think he was a
Yeah.
really, really well written and interesting character to watch kind of go through the years.
Yeah. I think like with the abroad thing, I think like um Shi Juan needed that too. Like he
Mm-hmm.
needed to get away and just separate himself
Mm-hmm.
from his, because at that point like him forcibly kissing him and all
Mm-hmm.
that, it was very childish. I
Yeah,
don't like he had a lot of emotions that he didn't know how to handle and he didn't know
absolutely.
what to do with and he had to grow up.
Hmm.
And I don't think both of them, I don't think they could be able to be in a proper relationship if they hadn't had that time apart. Um so it makes sense, although it feels a little sudden. Like it feels like, okay, this big brother who's like very protective and very like um strict, to just be able to send someone abroad uh,
Hmm.
like that felt a little bit jarring. But I also understand the thought
Yeah.
process, and I think also like he felt like sending him, was it to America?
Yeah, he went to New York.
Yeah, I think like he felt like that's a much safer place,
Yeah.
even though
There's
that can arguably be like that
there was
is.
such a funny line like before he actually sent him abroad, and he was like, just like it was more of like a in the future, like I have this money saved up for you to go abroad, and he was like, maybe you can go to America, or he's like, oh, the UK would be good too, but he was like, no, the UK is way more dangerous than America. And I was like, is that
Dude.
is that the perception of like America and other, like, I don't know, it was such a funny
Ah,
line that he was like,
ah.
the UK has way too many thieves. And I was like,
Dude,
well, America is a
this
whole
was
different can of
obviously
worms, but
written a lot of
yeah,
years ago.
yeah,
Like that was the perception of America when I was
like
a
10 years
teenager.
ago, yeah.
Yeah. So, but not now.
It was so funny though, yeah. Like watching that
Yeah.
now in 2023, I was like, I mean, I guess it makes
Uh,
sense because like when he was studying abroad, it would have set talking about sending him to study abroad, it would have been like 2016, which like even then, like things are a little bit iffy because that's when Trump first got elected, not to get into politics. But
yeah.
I can see how like the perception of America in that time period in other places
Yeah.
still would have been very much like America's the place to go. But it was just
Yeah.
so funny to watch that and be like, okay, but yeah, it's
But
a little
also,
tangent, a little
yeah,
tangent.
no, I remember when I was an exchange student when I was 16, like it's over 16 years ago. But either way, um we were told, we were in New York and we were told you can they gave us a map and they told us do not go there, there, there. This is within the circle that you are allowed to walk in.
Yeah. See, I think stuff like that can be a little bit misinformed because like you get into like why are you assuming this neighborhood's dangerous? But I
Mhm.
think in general the idea that America is not a dangerous place to send someone
I
compared
will
to other
say
places.
the place that we were allowed to be was like the most commercial street. Like they
Times
didn't
Square
want us to go.
probably.
They
Anywhere
didn't
that
want
like
us
people
to go.
actually lived. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And so then you're like, but
Yeah.
in the
But
context of the
also
show.
you have a lot of like privileged 16-year-olds from Europe or from Norway and that area. There were a lot of Norwegians. And we're not used to being careful. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like rules of walking on people's property and stuff here is not
true,
strict.
true, true, true.
It's yeah, but yeah, back to the show.
Tangent, tangent, tangent. Um, but yeah, all that to say, like I think I can understand how it would feel jarring. That he was just like suddenly like, okay, you did this thing, now I'm like sending
Mm,
you away.
mm-hmm.
I think it really went to show how like he gets very blinded by letting himself experience emotions. So
Mm-hmm.
like the second he's like, okay, maybe he felt angry about the kiss, maybe he felt like it was forcing him to confront feelings that he knew were there for him. And then maybe he was starting to feel himself. And he became very blinded with the idea of just like, I have to shut this down. And so he was
Yeah.
like, if this is what I need to do to like shut this
Mm,
down, and he thinks he's doing it for Huan's sake too, not just his own. But
mm-hmm.
I think it pops up in future things too, like with him being pissed at San Peng for like weeks on end when he found out that like
Mm-hmm.
they were he was dating his sister,
Yeah.
and like even being in denial about like his blood clot and like shutting down
Yeah.
about that and being like, oh, the doctor's just over exaggerating. Like
Yeah.
he's a very act first, think later person, and I think he doesn't like to confront his emotions, and so that's where all that stuff kind of comes from.
Mm-hmm. I
Um,
will say, like, once he accepted his own feelings and his relationship with oh god, she Yuan. I think that moment when they, like, he grabs him in the street and they go back to the house, that was very beautifully done.
mhm.
The only, like, I have a tiny bit of issue, like the flashbacks in between was very jarring. Like, where the fuck are we? Like, that felt so out of place.
Mm, yeah,
But the scenes in themselves and just that moment was very beautiful.
yeah, yeah. No, I can see that. I was kind of confused at first because like, well, the episode ended with him like grabbing his hand or whatever, and then like they
Uh-huh.
went back to
Uh-huh.
the house, and then they were making
Uh-huh.
out, and then
Uh-huh.
it like was like, no, we're back at the bottom of the stairs again, and then we're kissing and we're having all these flashbacks. So like it was like
Yeah.
edited
It
together
was
a little bit
very
weirdly.
jarring. Yeah.
I can see that they were like trying to portray him like reflecting on everything and then like finally making the decision to be like, yes, I'm going to accept my feelings for this person. But yeah, the way
Yeah.
that scene was like put together with the
The
flashbacks and like the
editing
cuts
wasn't
around
great there. Like,
was a little
they
weird.
could have done that in a different way, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Overall though, I had this in my notes that I really liked the like aesthetic and the production
Mhm.
quality of the show.
Mhm.
Like I like
Absolutely.
that it kind of, I'm so used to these shows having like that over brightened, like
Mm.
very like peppy aesthetic that we see. I think it's used a decent amount in, obviously in the Thai BL. We see it a lot in the Taiwanese and Korean BLs as well. I think not
Yeah.
as much with the J dramas, but I think this one kind of had more of like a pulled back, toned down, gritty aesthetic, and I think it worked for the like the fact that these are people who are like living in poverty, essentially trying to work themselves up to um be able to like have a life that exists outside of the gang and like all of these like odd end jobs that he was working. So I like
Mm.
the color grading that they use. Like I like there was a lot of like reds and like those neutral tones used, especially like when they were in their neighborhood and in the gang scenes and stuff like that. And I like that they
Mhm.
had these little tidbits. Like I noticed this at the very end that like the house was also kind of used as vehicle to show how time was passing. Like I
Mhm.
was looking in like the final F's and episodes, and you notice like little details in the house had changed. Like they switched out the couch furniture, and the phone that was like a dial phone when he used it to call the hospital for his mom became a cord
Mhm.
phone, became like a digital house phone. So like I thought those were cool little like production tidbits that kind of connected you with the show and kind of like going through time
Mm.
with them.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think in general like some of the editing, like that scene, and I think there was another one where they um oh well, the one where he like imagined kissing him at the
Yeah.
fishing one was a
The
little bit
fishing
different,
spot. Yeah.
but it did kind of have that same like, oh, this is happening, and then we're cutting back to something
Yeah.
else happening
I
that's
I
different.
will say I was watching that and I clocked it right away. This
Yeah,
isn't
I was
real.
like, there's no way this is real.
There's no way.
I was like, okay, okay. I was like, the second he was like, it was happening and Wei Shan was kissing him back, I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely
No.
not, not right
That's not
now.
real.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a few little like editing moments that I think were like cut together a little weirdly, but
Mhm.
in general, I think I really like appreciated the production and the
Mhm.
way they used it to like feed into the type of story they were trying to tell.
Yeah. Can I
Um
say, like, I one thing that really sat with me too was the appearance of Sam Lin.
oh, I have that in my notes.
I will be honest, at first when he
I didn't
appeared, I
recognize him.
didn't
I didn't
recognize him.
recognize him.
For the first, like, he's like, obviously he's an older person here than in We Best Love. But I don't know what it was. There was just something about him that it's so unrecognizable for his character in We Best Love. I just
Mhm.
didn't connect, but I was
Mhm.
strangely like like drawn to the character. I
Mm-hmm.
remember like the doctor, I'm just like, who is that?
Yeah.
It was such a like a main character energy from him. And I'm just like, ooh, what are we gonna see
Why
about
am
the
I so
doctor?
drawn to him?
But he barely had any scenes.
Yeah. I was gonna say, how did us Sam cameo, which like I guess he's kind of more of a supporting role because he was in a couple of episodes, but I had the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. Like I remember from people talking in the Discord server, I knew he was gonna show up in this in some form, but like when
Mm-hmm.
he first came on the screen, it took me like a solid 30 seconds to realize like, oh, that's Sam.
That's
Like
it.
that's
Yeah.
I think like first of all, I feel like he's obviously playing a very, very different type of character
Yeah.
from like he's like this he's a doctor, but like he's been involved in things and he smokes and he
Yeah.
doesn't really care for
Yeah.
himself that much kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But he like really did a good job of like
He
playing
did.
into it.
He did.
So it's very different from his character in We Best Love. And
Mm-hmm.
like he had the longer hair and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like almost for a little
Mm.
bit unrecognizable. And then I was like, oh wait, that's Sam. And then every time he was
That's
on screen, I was like, yes, it's
Oh,
Sam.
Sam. And when they hinted to like the
Him and
gangster
the
and him,
gangsters. We need the spin-off. We need the spin-off.
we need a spin
Like
off,
I need to know what their
literally.
history is. I need to know like what they have, especially like the gang guy being like, "Oh, like I'll try not to make sure I'm too busy from here on out then or something." When Sam was like, "Call me
Oh,
from time to time if you're
dude.
not busy." And I was like, "Okay, we've got some vibes going here."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Yeah,
buy it. I buy it. Thank
I
you.
was hoping you would mention that because I
Oh.
was like, am I the only one reading this vibe that they're
There's something there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really liked
Dude,
it.
the gangster was so random. Like I never knew where I had him. Like what?
Oh, like what his intentions were?
Yeah, like with
Yeah.
everything. Like is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is
I
he
don't know.
what is he?
I feel like he was almost kind of like a true gangster. Like,
Mm,
he had this kid working for him.
mm,
The kid left and then he was
mm.
like I mean, he was initially it seemed like almost gonna let him go without anything until
Yeah.
his like second was like, "Oh, this isn't fair." So then
Mm-hmm.
Wei Shin paid off his dues,
Yeah. He's
kind
fine.
of almost got him arrested and then
Yeah.
like but I feel like he didn't have any malice towards Wei Shin for that because
Mm,
he was like, I know the higher ups were planning to throw me under the bus anyway. So
mm.
like, I don't know, he kind of almost felt like a true gangster who was like, okay, eye for
Yeah.
an eye, you did this for me, so you're good. I'll do this for you, and then we're good. But like his
It
other second guy was like whatever
yeah,
he
it kind of
was.
felt like he was an adult. Let's just like
Yeah.
he was above like petty squabbles.
Yeah. He'd been in
And
it for too long, I
yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like I was back and forth if I liked that part, like him
Mhm.
and like the part of the plot. I'm not 100% sure if I still can say that I liked it, but I do
Mhm.
like the thought of him like just okay, he's a gangster, but he's like human.
Yeah.
If you know what I
Yeah.
mean. He's not cruel.
Yeah. He's like very much just like neutral almost. Like as
Mm.
neutral as a gangster can be, I guess.
And I mean Sam loves him, so
Yeah, that's all that matters. Oh, I had that this was like there were so many scenes in the show that were like made for people who love the hurt comfort trope. Like the amount
mm-hmm.
of times they were patching each other up and like
Mm-hmm.
healing each other like physically and emotionally. I was like every other scene was like this is hurt comfort. This is peak hurt comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Um that was in my notes. But yeah, I don't know.
And
I think go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like the spooning in
Oh,
this
yeah.
show was top tier.
Yeah, they had
That's
some
great
good cuddling
spooning.
going on.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I liked it even though like we only really got what like two episodes where they were um
actually together.
actually together, but like it didn't feel like you were missing anything. I mean,
No.
I'm generally like I like a slow burn for the most part as long as like I feel like the emotions justify that, which is like why I was a
Mm,
fan of like Step by Step when I know a lot of people weren't a fan of how much that was. But like
yeah.
here, I think like it was another situation where the pace of the relationship and it taking 10 episodes to get them anywhere was
Mm-hmm.
justified by the nature of their relationship from all the eps previous and like who they were as characters. So
Mm-hmm.
even though it only was like 2 episodes with them together, I think that it made sense and it made those
Mm-hmm.
like 2 episodes very like worthwhile to have.
I think a lot of like the chemistry helped also in the earlier episodes, and
Mm-hmm.
it definitely helped with like the kiss that wasn't a kiss, like the daydream.
Oh yeah.
that that
Yeah.
helped keeping the slow burn at like okay.
Yeah, I mean, she one was very good at yearning and like
Mm-hmm.
letting it know like through his voiceovers and stuff that like he was very much in his feelings about everything that was going on, and like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
his yearning really carried a lot of it as well, like just
Yep.
knowing like oh he loves this man so much, and
Mm-hmm.
but he's like letting himself suffer because he doesn't, it's like those kind of feelings that just like bring you in and take you along for like
Mm-hmm.
the whole long ride of it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I really
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, which like I said I always say with these reviews, but I think I was someone who was like I think I mentioned it before when someone had brought it up. Like I thought it was like a step sibling thing, and then you were like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, it's more of like a
No.
they raised each other, like grew up, not raised each other, like grew up together, like he took him in."
Mm-hmm.
So even I went into it a little bit wary because, like I said at the beginning, like I think these
Mm-hmm.
kind of relationships and storylines can be hit or miss for me personally,
Yeah.
but I think this is one that like I was able to engage with the characters in a relationship in a way
Mm.
that like I ended up enjoying it in the end. And I thought
Yep.
like it was cute the kind of family dynamic that they landed on in the end with the four of them, like
Mm-hmm.
and how like the younger sister um like was able to like kind of just like accept their relationship into the fold of like what their family already was, and then
Yep.
San Peng kind of coming into the fold with that as well. Like I kind of like the dynamic they ended up in the end with like what they viewed as family versus what they viewed as romance, and kind of how that
Mm-hmm.
all worked together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah, any final thoughts before we jump into our ratings?
Mm, no, I just like think that they did a really good job at balancing like drama, sadness,
Mm-hmm.
humor,
There were some good funny
everything.
moments in there.
Mm-hmm.
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 Yeah, I agree. Alrighty then. What would you rate it out of 5?
I would give it a solid 4 out of 5. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
some like editing choices that really felt jarring that I feel like I can't give it a 5 out of 5. But solid 4 out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where I landed as well. I was almost going back and forth between like a 4.5 and a 4 out of
Mm-hmm.
5, but like yeah, I think talking about like some of the editing things that I
Mm-hmm.
felt were a little bit jarring, I think solidly a 4. Like I think I
Mm-hmm.
would definitely recommend it for people to watch, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a very unexpected, enjoyable watch for me.
Yeah.
I think it did help that I binged it, so I was just like watching through everything in one
It
sitting.
was torture waiting. And then 1 week we had to wait for 2 weeks because we got 2 episodes at the same time because someone leaked the episode,
Oh,
so
I
they
remember
just
that
released it.
happening.
And
Yeah.
then we had to wait 2 weeks for the next one. Everyone was just like, "Oh, we'll get the next episode next week." No, we had to wait
No,
two
no,
weeks for
no.
that shit.
That's what people get for leaking episodes.
uh,
But no, yeah, I think I landed on a solid 4 out of 5, I think.
also, if someone wants to watch it and don't have Vicky, this show is actually on YouTube as well.
Oh, legally?
Yeah. Yes,
Oh,
legally.
I didn't know that.
Hmm?
Oh, that's good to know. So, yeah, that's definitely, I mean, I don't know if it's like region locked or anything, but I feel like that's a lot, usually more accessible than having to pay for a subscription. So that's good to know as well.
Hmm.
But
It's
yeah.
on Yoku's
Oh,
YouTube
Yoku.
channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're the people who did distribute it. I Feel You Linger in the Air as well.
Hmm.
So, yeah. All right. Well, I think we both landed on a 4 out of 5.
Mm.
So be sure to let us know whether you're watching on Patreon or over on YouTube, what your rating for Unknown would be out of 5. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, how the show worked for you overall. We love reading your thoughts about the reviews, and we know a lot of people are really excited for this one. So hopefully you have a lot of thoughts to share with us. And if you're watching this on YouTube, friendly reminder that all of our reviews are voted on by our patrons, and they also get access to watch them a month before we upload them onto YouTube. So if you're interested in choosing what series we review next, consider joining our Patreon family. It is also a great way to support us here at the show. But yeah, that is all for our review of Unknown, and we will see you guys next month for another one. Bye bye!